All right.
just churn. Right?
Supposedly we are streaming live on YouTube now.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Yes. No, not YouTube. Facebook.
Yeah, you're on YouTube now. It just went live.
Okay. And I've got this website here, so I don't have to worry about what I have on my screen because we're just talking. We're not demoing anything.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we need to tweet it out, I guess.
I'll share the link.
All right. Everybody out there, I'll go ahead and just officially start in just a second, but get my bearings here. Make sure that I've got everything turned off on this computer that I could possibly turn off that would be taking up resources. I'm like exiting out of OneDrive and everything just in case. Just because my Surface is not used to doing this. So.
Move it just a little bit closer.
Oh, okay.
Whoops.
You're not live. It's okay.
Yeah, sure. All right.
All right.
I think we're ready.
It's really, so I don't know if we want to just do what the audio thing is because it's like really churny. Like it's like like that. So we might just want to do audio so they can actually, because we're not going to get any, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's up to you.
Do they hear the audio smooth?
I think I think because of the video, the audio is also like that.
All
Let me check.
I don't know if we want to just do what the audio thing is because it's like really churny.
I don't think the audio is churny.
Yeah, I guess it does. It sounds okay. So I think we can just go for it.
The audio sounds smooth, but the video is just like, we're like cartoons.
Yeah, just like
and
like
I don't know how
old-fashioned.
well the people here in the live audience are gonna
hear us. Is it just frozen? I think Facebook was just frozen. But YouTube is, at least you can hear us.
So
I think you can
Slack,
hear
did they
us.
say that they can hear us, like understand our sentences?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll just verify that before we decide what to do or not do.
Ugh, I
And
can't type
I
today.
don't know what kind of settings in here that I would need to mess with to be able to accommodate for that. So. Okay, so you guys that are in the chat room, can you hear and understand what we're saying? Because I know the video is a little choppy, but how's the audio? So I guess I'm not on Slack, but Joelle is. So just kind of.
They say audio is all good. So
okay.
So we're okay.
We'll just go with that then.
Yep, audio is good, so they can hear us.
All right.
All right.
So we'll officially get started.
Yeah, I guess we can get
started. Both of us here together,
Yep.
in person, and both on the screen at the same time.
I know, it's a miracle. It hasn't happened in 2 years, I think, since we used to do Google Hangouts and now we do XSplit and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
Well, welcome to SharePoint Power Hour. I'm Laura Rogers, and this is Joelle.
I'm Joelle Jobson, whatever my last name is now. Forget.
And we are live here at the SharePoint conference in Las Vegas at the MGM Grand Hotel.
Yep.
It's pretty exciting.
It is.
The B-52s playing last night.
Yep, and fireworks.
Yeah, that was a surprise. Everybody was starting to leave, and all of a sudden fireworks, and it was lovely.
Yep.
But so SharePoint Power Hour is this show. If you've never seen it, it's a show that we do every Wednesday at 11 Central. Usually at 11 Central. Today
Yes.
it's not.
Yeah. Today we're on. Is it Pacific time here?
Time,
Is it?
Yeah. And this is our show we've been doing probably 3 or 4 years.
Actually, 5.
5. Goodness.
Yeah, it's a long time.
And we're not developers. We're not super technical. I've got an admin background, and we both have been using SharePoint for 10 years or so. But
Yeah.
we're not developers. We're not programmers. And everything we talk about on Power Hour is going to be out of the box and no code, low code,
Yep.
stuff, and just concepts in Office 365 and SharePoint and Power Apps.
Yep.
So we have the Slack channel, IW Mentor Slack channel, that we have our live chat going on in. And those of you who are here in person, you can get into Slack and chat with us. You probably can't even hear us because we're in the expo.
Yeah, we're gonna try to talk loudly.
I've lost my voice from that party last night. So this is, what was I going to say? So we got the Slack channel that we can take questions in, and
Yep.
that's where we have our fun little. Have any of y'all been in our Slack channel and chatted with us during the show?
Yeah.
You have?
Yeah.
So that's always something. And then that's the fun of doing it live, is we usually do demos and things like that every week. So
Yeah.
we get to take questions and just kind of discuss what we're doing, and figure things out along the way a lot of the times. And I'm always just making stuff up as I go.
Yeah.
So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what's been going on at the conference and announcements that they've made, and kind of how we think we're going to be able to go apply those kind of new things that they've announced in our real world projects, and what they mean to us. So the big thing, the big major like top secret announcement that was like drum roll, what are they going to say, was
SharePoint Spaces.
SharePoint Spaces. So SharePoint Spaces is just this, who would have thought that we would have SharePoint and virtual reality all in one.
It's interesting.
So did you go do the demo yet?
No, I haven't. I haven't had a chance to get up there.
There's an area here where you can go put on a HoloLens and go try it out. So what it is you are editing a SharePoint page, and you insert like this virtual reality world, I guess, kind of like a web part on a page, and then you can insert, it's a certain type of, I don't know if they're called web parts.
Yeah, I think it is. They're like web parts.
Virtual reality web parts.
Yeah.
So you have like BI charts that you can put on there.
Yep.
Org charts.
It was like a library or list, right? Too, like the one with the products that they were showing.
Yeah, there was one with products that kind of went around in a carousel where you could click on
it and see the details,
and examine it, and you can like walk forward into, like, if it's a tent or something, like that's one of your products, you walk into the tent and you're like, anyway,
looking around and stuff.
It's pretty cool. So that's the first thing that a lot of people thought of, is what are the use cases for SharePoint and virtual reality, like in the real world. So we've been kind of pondering that. It depends on what your industry is, right, as to how useful that's going to be.
I think immediately, like, of course, I think it's definitely a futuristic thing. It's not something that most companies are using or doing, but I think immediately I know that there are some, like, architects, engineers that are using HoloLens, or virtual reality to do some of that. So for them, you can easily go from, like, you're building something, you're building a car or whatever, and then you need to get something in SharePoint, so you can just go over there and without leaving the experience. So I think that's kind of a neat thought, for immediate use.
Yeah.
Right. Long term, I do want to just be in my SharePoint site with the, like, birdie music playing and, like, the nice, like, that's,
look around and the mountains and the trees and
that would make building stuff much more zen, and I would like that.
put yourself in the garden with trickling water.
Yeah, exactly. I would like that. Like building Power Apps, and it's just like nice and peaceful.
One of the things they described as a case scenario was like HR onboarding. So your new employees go into this world and they click through the org chart and they fill out a form and they, kind of get to know the organization in different business units.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's interesting.
So, pretty interesting. So
it'll be interesting to see how, like, if in the future, if like meetings like go into that, like if they start doing like Teams and Skype with like virtual reality, that might be interesting.
Between people and talking to them.
Yeah, and like that would be, I don't know how that would work, but yeah, that might be an interesting thing.
Futuristic stuff.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people were kind of like, of course, not a lot of people, but I didn't hear some people were like, really, like,
how practical
is this really practical? But I think it's still cool that Microsoft is looking at that future thing and kind of getting into that, and because I think it's something that is going to become more relevant as time goes by, because I just hear more companies talking about it and more ideas for how to use it and stuff like that. So I think I like that they're actually looking into it and taking some time, from other stuff
and
to
thinking outside of the box as to what's the future, the real future of SharePoint, besides just typing on your computer.
Yeah, and the future of working, as we become more and more and more remote, as you have a larger remote workforce, what are the ways that we can bring people together when they're not together,
it's like the movies. Like, think of it, there's like there are movies where you've got a conference room with this big conference table and all these virtual people sitting around.
Like somebody were talking about Minority Report or whatever. Like you were. I think Mark Cashman said something about you, like with the Minority Report gloves, building Power Apps. I was like, see, this is the future.
All right, so now let's. That was the futuristic. Who knows what's going to happen?
Big secret announcement. Yeah.
So now let's talk about some of the things that are more kind of immediate and more kind of day-to-day work.
Realistic.
Yeah, so they've done some, they talked about some, a lot about Teams, and Teams is hot. And the thing about Teams is that, like all these years, Outlook is the central place that as you're doing your work all day, and as you're just doing whatever you do, Outlook is the thing that people always just have running.
Yep.
And it sort of controls your life. Like if you turn off Outlook, sometimes you go into withdrawals. Like what emails am I getting? So I think what Teams is trying to become is like not necessarily a replacement for Outlook in some ways, but it's going to be another thing that you just have running all the time, and that's where you have, and it's just more organized than like just your instant message client in the past. Yeah. So it's more of a replacement for instant messaging.
Yeah, and I think it's trying to take, it is honestly, the whole idea is trying to take everything, we're so piecemeal with all the apps in Office 365 and Skype and Outlook, and just trying to like put that all into like one hub. And it was what I thought was pretty interesting is because I'm still working with a lot of our clients to get Teams adopted, like that's still a big push, it's still a big hurdle that we're dealing with. And I still have clients that are just like, but they don't know like what, how to adopt it. And what I thought was pretty interesting, and I would love to like talk to somebody at Microsoft, because I did notice like during the sessions that their like team notifications were popping up, like their own notifications, and obviously they're using it, and they have adopted it. And it would be interesting to kind of hear them talk about how they adopted that in the organization or whatever, because I did notice that they were using it like themselves, so that was kind of interesting.
So instead of having to go to Outlook, having to go to Teams, and then having to go to SharePoint, they brought a lot more SharePoint into Teams. So that's what some of the big announcements that they made is now you can have news announcements, pages in Teams, and like they've enriched the document library experience.
So it's like fully capable.
Capable in Teams, so that you don't have, SharePoint isn't a separate place you have to go. You can just be in Teams, and in your channels or where you are organized, like projects that you're working on, and that's where you can organize, this project channel is going to have this SharePoint document library, as a tab, and kind of have a system for how you do all your work, and just solely in Teams, and still be using SharePoint, and get your news and announcements, and have your conversations in that one place, and not have to have everything in just all these emails flying around. The cool thing about Teams is that compared to email is that if you are, think about if you're new or you're joining a project or you're joining the company, you go into the channel, and you can see everything that's going on, as opposed to not knowing what happened in email in the conversation in the past. So, so Teams, more announcements around Teams. Let's see. And basically the blog post, I don't know if you want to put a link to that.
I can put a link to this.
I'm reading through, I'm thinking about the things that they announced here and the things that we've seen in sessions, and I'm reading through basically this blog post that lists all this stuff that we've been seeing in all these announcements this week. So
it's a good wrap up.
Microsoft Planner.
Yes.
Now, is basically becoming the replacement for Task List.
Yes. Very quickly becoming the replacement for Task List.
So we have, in the past, we've had these, Task List templates and SharePoint sites, and that is what workflows have used to be able to assign tasks to people. And Planner is the new way to organize tasks and projects, I guess, and what the tasks are associated with. The thing about Planner and tasks is you can't just create a task. Like, it has to be part of a specific plan. It has to be part of a specific bucket in that plan. Right. So it kind of forces you to have your planner organized and have that sort of structure in place. But one of the things that we saw in the demo was taking a document or taking a list item and having it create tasks. Yeah, that was pretty interesting. It said create task, yep. And having a create It's not out there yet, but in the toolbar right there in your list or library. And that doesn't create an item in a task list. It creates
a task in a planner
task, which that'll be interesting because I guess it just assumes that it's going to put it in the plan for that site.
Yeah, it didn't show that because you can have multiple plans for one group or site, and so yeah, so it'll be interesting to see like how
where it's going to automatically,
or if it will give you like maybe they just didn't have that in the UX yet, but how it will like let you choose like what plan to attach it to. Or if it's just one, then it just attaches it to that. Yeah, so that'll be interesting to see.
One thing that we can do right now is in Flow, we can assign, the planner has actions in Flow. So that's one thing that you can use for your task assignment in your approval processes and workflows. Instead of using task lists, instead of using even that approval action, you could use the action that assigns a planner task to people when you want to, have that accountability.
Set that up,
And also straight from Power Apps, it's a connector to Planner. It's the same connector you use in Flow. So you could use the Planner Power Apps connect. I think I did this in Power Hour the other day. I showed the Planner.
I do remember something about
the planner plans in a gallery.
Yes,
and then the buckets inside of those plans. And then assigning a task to somebody, all directly from Power Apps using just functions that assign a task to somebody. So, Planner, keep an eye on Planner.
I mean, Planner, it's what they're doing. Because you even, in the Planner panel this week, they even talked about how they're extending the flow actions and extending, like, what you can do with that. So, I mean, I think it's definitely it's growing. What I kind of want to hear, and I don't know if they mentioned it at all during the Planner panel yesterday, but I'd really like to hear like what the idea is for the project, like Microsoft Project, and that integration, because we have a client right now that we're talking with and trying to figure out what to do for them, because they still have to use the classic task list in order to sync project to it. And so I really want to see if project's going to end up with Planner, or if they're gonna what's gonna happen there, because people still need
projects made way more intricate.
It is, and people still need that, because people have these very, very complex like project management methodologies that have to use Planner, and it can't be just simple.
Project,
project. I keep saying they're just all the P words. I keep messing them up. But project, they have to use project, so it'll be interesting to see like how that will tie into Planner. I'm curious about that.
There's a Planner web part.
Yes, and the Planner web part's actually really I like it.
Yeah, and you can put Planner in a team. So again, wherever you want to work, if you want to present on a web page, if you want to just be working in teams and see your plans or create a plan, like wherever you want to be, they're making this just easy for you from whatever direction you come. Instead of saying this is the way you have to work and this is the place you have to go, they're leaving it more open and just putting everything everywhere, which is
connecting.
Like, some people kind of been complaining. The customers say, well, we want you to tell us the way to do it.
Yeah,
like,
it's too much.
It's too many options. But then, on the other hand, like having options is good because people work in different ways.
Yeah.
Just like, where do you go when you need to create a new spreadsheet? You start from Excel on your computer, or you go to SharePoint and click to create a spreadsheet, and then you do create it and do save as, and then just pick where in SharePoint you want it to go. So like stuff like that historically is just people start from somewhere different. People work in different ways, so it's trying to just accommodate for everything. So.
Yeah, or even just like in like the ribbon menu of Office products, right? Like you can go to like pretty much every ribbon to do multiple. You know what I mean? Like you can do that one thing in multiple places. So they've always kind of done that, but yeah, it is a challenge for sure, and that's why planning is so important for this kind of using this kind of stuff, governance and all that good stuff.
So the next thing I guess that they have been talking about is the concept of pages and news. Now, in the past we had publishing pages and intranet, the old classic intranets with a portal and a bunch of subsites and the navigation all in one site collection. Wow, that is in the past.
That is over.
So I don't know if you all knew this, but subsites are a big no-no. Like, we're not doing subsites anymore. So go delete all your subsites.
Just delete them. Just go do it right now. Just don't even worry about
all that data is old anyway. Nobody's using
it. Right. That's like most internet migrations I do or internet upgrades I do. It's like 90% of the content is not useful.
Yeah. So as going forward, is your mind blown? Like no subsites, right?
Yeah. Flat structure is scary.
So it's supposed to be a flat structure. So while they're saying you need to have a flat structure, everything's just basically it's a site collection. So even when you create an Office 365 group, inherently that is a site collection.
Yeah.
So everything is just a site collection, and it's all in one flat structure. And so the way you organize it now is with hub sites.
Yes.
And we did a power hour on hub sites and how to take a site and turn it into be the hub site.
Hub site, yeah.
And the hub site is going to be where you have like these top level settings as far as navigation,
theme, yeah.
And then so what they're announcing here is select which site sources you want to pull content in from. So now the news web parts, you're going to be able to have like information at your hub site.
Yeah.
And have it push news down to all the sites that are in that hub, I believe.
Yeah, and so I think they've already started doing that with some of those web parts where you can, if you are a part of a hub, you can actually, there's an option in the web part that says roll up content from the sites that are a part of this hub. And so I think it's kind of just like taking and extending that and making it really, and I think you can kind of pick and choose too, like what news is rolling up or whatever. So it's interesting because a lot of that stuff we were doing with like 2013, but we were having to use like content search web parts and like really get into the like query language and figure out like how to roll it up and like what's the best way to do that. And so it's kind of nice that some of that stuff will just be easy. I add it to a page and change a setting and boom, it rolls everything up. So that'll be pretty. I mean, that is the benefit of a hub, right? It's kind of that nice, like, organizational structure without an actual, like, very.
If this site all of a sudden needs to not be in HR but
exactly.
in marketing, you can just flip it to be the child of a different
exactly,
site, and you don't have to worry about physically
like migrating it, rebuilding it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that, I mean, there's organizations that like they change their structure like constantly,
their org chart
just
changes,
constantly changes, and if they're basing their intranet off of that structure, then it's really hard to like, okay, now I got to delete the subsite, I got to migrate it over here, I got to, how does it connect into this? How's it, and now with hub sites, it kind of
so the architecture is a lot easier with it all being flat.
So it's scary being flat, and also I think there are some use cases for subsites still, but overall, I know, I didn't say that. I'm not the PC Microsoft answer. But yeah, so that's pretty cool though. I like to see some of that stuff.
Awesome. Save for later. You can be reading a news article and decide that you want to catch up with it later, so you can put save for later. And that's going to be interesting. So I guess you're just going to have a list of stuff that you decided you want to read later, kind of like in Feedly. I have that concept, and like in the browser, on your phone, you have that concept of stuff you want to read later.
Yeah, I mean, I think the news. I mean, we've had it for a while now, but I just think if you're in corporate communications and you haven't seen these news options yet, I mean, you need to see it. Yeah. So, like, if you have, if you're trying to, like, push this stuff in your organization and you really want to, like, see it happen, go to corporate communications and show them how beautiful these news articles are, because they'll be all over it.
Peel those old classic pages from their cold hands.
Yeah, as much as you can. We're getting there, because I think initially it was hard because there just was, the web parts were, like, lacking so much, but we're getting there. We're definitely getting there,
So a lot of the page management capabilities have been announced finally, and this is going to be some of the stuff that has been blocking people from moving to the modern pages. So now you actually have page metadata that you can use. Yeah. And there's going to be a page like a page layout or page data web part. I don't remember what it's called, but basically you're going to have your page, your site pages library, and that's where all your pages live. And you're going to be able to create extra columns in there. That's your page's metadata. And then you'll be able to, when you're on a page, be able to display the metadata. Now, that kind of existed in the old classic pages in a way.
People didn't really use it, but it was there. Yeah.
That was for more like formal pages and formal publishing processes. So,
and also when with the whole public SharePoint sites, that was pretty much what that was for like SEO properties and stuff like that. So so it's a little bit different now.
So you can have page management and remember good old-fashioned audience targeting.
Yes, this is interesting. I'm really intrigued by this.
And it didn't die.
Yeah.
I've always loved audience targeting. It's been to me like one of those obscure settings. That is extremely cool and powerful, but not that many people used. Because I think the reason it was not as much used is because you had to set it up in central admin. So your server admin had to know what they were doing and had to know how to set it up. So just like typical business users couldn't just create audiences
Yeah,
necessarily.
and a lot of times people were wanting audience targeting based off of AD properties and stuff, and a lot of times they didn't have that information.
Or it wasn't up to date.
It wasn't up to date, or it wasn't like right.
Up to date. That's important. Don't
Yeah.
talk to hyperfish. Yeah. So now we're going to have audience targeting is back. It didn't die. So now we're going to have audience targeting in the modern pages.
Yep.
And that's really important. So that means that, you know, instead of having to use permissions, instead of having to use security to say this person has this permission to this content so they can see it, etc., you can just create a home page and say, I want people in marketing to see this web part, I want people in HR to see this web part or this news, etc.
Yeah.
And you can target to those audiences, and the audiences are defined by attributes in AD. So instead of the audiences having to define by a group that you're in, you can just say, has HR in their job title, or reports to a certain person, or has marketing in their department name.
Yeah, or like the specific thing I think of, because have had to do it with clients before, is like a global company with news. Right, like you're targeting the news of a certain region to these users, and there's tons of companies that want to do that. So that'll be interesting to see how we actually can make that happen with the new audience targeting. So, if we have to, do we have to have multiple web parts, or are we going to be able to do it all in one web part? Like that'll be interesting to see how that'll work.
Yeah. So I'm excited about our audience targeting sort of being back and being an actual thing again. That's been one of my favorite things. Page approval, so that was the formal page approval process for intranets and like more like communication site concepts is a thing now. And it's going to be in Flow. Basically, you're going to have the ability to say that, you know, you're working on a page and it's not necessarily ready for everyone to be able to see it. You want someone to be able to look at the page and approve it before it's publicly shown.
Right.
So that's going to be done with Flow, with good old content approval. Content approval is what, you know, behind the scenes has always been used for that. So, Flow can tie into your content approval setting in your in any list of libraries. Yeah,
and a lot of these things, it's funny because I think we even said that is like a lot of the stuff we existed or we had, but it's good that we are getting it because people need it in the modern, you know, because like we were saying, a lot of the reasons people have been held back from moving is because they're missing these things. So it's good that they're listening and actually putting that stuff into it.
Yeah, it's that whole the user voice website, that has been huge. Like Microsoft has actually been doing all these things that people have been saying that they want. It's awesome.
Yeah, the stuff that gets voted high, they pay attention to.
So another thing it says in here is on the same thread is content organization, page metadata, and content filtering. Better organize your pages in libraries, influence how they're viewed based on specific criteria. So it's filtering. I don't understand the filtering part. You choose what region or role, what page type or page status, and then present views that make it possible for people to see or not see the page based on how they meet the criteria.
So that probably goes into that audience targeting, because if you are creating news, like let's say at the corporate level and it's like specific for this country, right? You could like tag it with that, and then the audience targeting could show that. So that kind of works. It kind of ties in with that.
Same concept. Okay. All right. So this concept of hub sites and communication sites, they've added some more capabilities to it. They've added just more capabilities to the colors, the way you can do colors in there. And approvals for hub site association, that's a pretty big deal. So you can't just go into the site settings and just change your hub site. You actually have to get that approved by someone. And that way, just anybody that's, I guess, an owner of the site can do it.
Whoever owns the hub site, probably.
That's in site settings.
And I think
so you have to be an owner in the first
place. Did they say that was something that you'd be able to turn like on and off, or I couldn't remember, but that's something. Or if it's like all sites have to be approved.
It doesn't say. It just says it's flexible.
So it's probably.
It makes it seem like
you can probably turn it on and off.
And then the site scripting during site association, that's awesome. So that's a whole, like, we could do a whole power hour on that.
The site design, that was probably, and I'm not sure if it's in here, we might be getting to it, but I guess I'll talk about it now. But the site designs, I actually went to the session on that yesterday, I think it was. And really, it is scripting, and of course there are the low code. Yeah, and it is like, I think some people will look at it like, oh, there's like scripting involved, but I really like what they're doing, and I think it will be pretty easy to maintain, even for a power user, to go out, create these site designs, put them out there, and allow people to choose them, and then do all this stuff, right? You can associate to a hub site, you can apply a theme, you can build lists and libraries and site columns and do all this stuff, and they're going to continue to build on that. So and permissions now, yay!
Oh my gosh!
So permissions are now in there. So that's exciting. Yeah, we went ahead and started using the site designs, and we were like, well, we can't do permissions, but now that's part of it. So that's really cool. And then also triggering a flow. So the one use case they used was like when you create the site, right? Like your user goes out there, self-site creation, self-service. They go out there, they create the site, they choose that design. It can actually trigger a flow to do something like take the information of that site and put it in a list in IT that keeps track of all the sites that have been created and like that kind of thing. So that you can have a flow that triggers to do multiple things once that site's created, or even does things on the site itself. So. Yeah, it's pretty. I think I like that they're like continuing to build on to that. And as somebody who's not a developer, I've been able to easily learn it and use it, and I think it's kind of pretty neat. And seeing that with like the hub site association is pretty cool too. So
yeah. So the concept, just more high level, is save site as template.
Yeah.
And customers think that's a little odd. They used to just be able to click a button to save a site as a template.
Yeah.
Now you have to go through PowerShell, but it's, again, like you said, it's evolving.
Yeah.
They're adding stuff to it, and I'm not sure it's always going to be a PowerShell interface.
Yeah, and they were talking yesterday. I didn't even know, but I guess there's some people in the community, like on the boards and stuff, that have already started creating UX ways of like creating those without having to know like the code and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how that evolves.
Yeah, how
but even with save site as a template, how many times, I don't know if you guys have had this experience as well, but how many times have you done that and then tried to use that template later and it like busts or like won't work, and then you got to try to but then you have no way of like trying to fix it, right? So at least this way you have like total control. You can get right into the details of the script and see what's happening, and I kind of think it's just better.
And we're not developers, we can figure it out. It's just a syntax, and you just kind of look
Yeah,
at all they have a lot of examples.
It's no different than using the stuff in Power Apps, like kind of understanding the functions and formulas. Like it's the same level.
It's all new to all of us. We can learn it.
Yeah.
We're always like, that's the SharePoint world now, is you're always learning something new.
Yeah, they keep you on your toes.
Yes, they do. So another thing that they announced was, so kind of to reiterate, the site design is like a site template and entails all these things. But what you can do now that they announced is that you can take a site design and associate with a particular hub site, so that when you're creating a new site and you choose that hub site, those site designs for that hub site are what show as your options. And then also they announced the concept of list templates in there too. So you can create like a list template. Say you have like a project list, and you have certain fields in your project list, and you have your certain date fields and your project manager and all this stuff. Like for people who don't necessarily use project but just need to have a list of projects. And we've done many of those. So think about that kind of list, any kind of list that you typically
use over
template, and you can take that template and have it be associated with the hub site that it's in. So therefore, everything that falls under that hub site
has that
template as something to pick from when they're creating the list. And that new list creation was like a whole new interface.
Yeah, we definitely need to talk about that.
They announced a bunch of new web parts like weather, and a bunch of updated web parts like the document library web part's actually going to have, it's going to be more functional. It's going to have full functionality in the document library web part. I'll have to update my web part. Like, I think I'm going to have to write a whole new modern web parts blog post, because the one I wrote is too much.
Yeah,
so many
and they've taken stuff. They've actually deleted some that they had originally, or replaced them or whatever.
And the O365 connectors.
Yep, that's all.
It's like 100 new things.
Planner web part, the weather. I guess they're doing a weather web part.
Everybody wants the weather
on the homepage. I'm like, do people really look at that?
I wrote.
People want it, but do they really look at it?
The very first blog post I ever wrote was how to do a weather web part. And
Yeah.
I was using an RSS feed and making it, and just the data view web part.
Yeah.
And making it show the weather based on your AD like location.
Oh, that's awesome. Data view web parts, man.
Go do it right now. That was fun.
It's good to see that like we actually have a nice modern search experience. And of course they were talking about one of the things I thought was really interesting is they were starting to talk about like customizing search, which we have been very like, we were like, oh, why can't we customize, you know? It's not out yet, and it sounds like they're still unsure of what that experience will be like. If it will be something that a power user can do, or if it's going to just be just straight dev. But that's things like customizing search suggestions, the verticals at the top of search, the refiners, like doing those things that we were able to do out of the box before.
So we've 2013 especially came out with a whole bunch of really cool things we could do with search, and I
spent
it's all
like
been stuck in the classic experience.
Yeah, I think I spent 3 years of my life like just solely focused on that stuff. Like on all the projects I worked on, it was all customizing search, customizing. Oh yeah, tons of it. And then like when Modern started to roll out, I was like, yeah, I can't really do that. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see.
It all started with the content query web part.
Yes, it did.
In the old days, and then they realized that people want to do this.
It's
cross-site collection.
Yeah,
all over the place. Yeah.
I mean, the thing is with the search experience, it's really good, and I like that it seems to be getting smarter. Like they were talking about how search is getting smarter. It's not just because I clicked on this thing. It's like it's looking at all kinds of areas to kind of show you the results that you need to see. But still, companies are going to need to customize it. They're going to need certain verticals. They're going to need refiners that are specific. So hopefully we'll see what happens with that in the UX.
Yeah. So, and you probably already noticed that when you're on a classic site and you do a search, and your results look completely different than when you're on the modern site, and then the results, like, before you just click in the search box, and before you even start typing anything, it shows you like common things that people are looking for, recent activity, like basically it knows who you are, it knows who your colleagues are, it knows things that people around you are searching for, or things that are relevant that are being clicked on. Like it has a whole bunch of math is going on behind the scenes, basically, and always has. And so it is presenting you with this before you even type a search.
Yeah, and it just gets more. I think the whole thing is it started off kind of like relevant, and then it's just gotten more and more and more and more relevant. So, and I really like that. And I think they call it like, what is it, like, oh gosh, zero. It's like a zero time query, or I can't remember the exact word that they use for it. Where before you anything, you click on it and it shows you that thing. And I can't remember what that they use.
Terminology.
Yeah, there was a cool. I like the terminology they use. I can't remember what it was. If anybody knows and remembers, let us know.
Oh, okay. So another thing that they talked about was direct document library access. So if you're on the mobile app, in the past, if you went to a document library on the SharePoint mobile app, it took you straight to OneDrive.
Yeah.
It just bounced you over to OneDrive, to that document library. But now it's actually letting you do richer actions. It's staying in the SharePoint app. To be able to do that. That's kind of in a random place in here a while ago. So you can do @mentions in your comments. So one of the things that they announced is that they had a big demo in Microsoft Word. So I'm just going to talk about that with the @mentions thing.
The mentions,
You've always had the ability to do comments in Word and in PowerPoint. And the thing about comments is that they just kind of they're just kind of buried in that document.
Yeah.
And you can go to the review tab and type and pick comments there and be able to have your comments panel and be in a document and go to a particular place and make a comment about it. But one of the big things that this is sort of being modernized now, you can do @mentions in your comments, which means that when somebody mentions someone, that means that person's actually going to get notified to let them know, because that's been a big thing that's been missing in just basic collaboration of people working on a file together. That's one of those just bread and butter things that it's not fancy, it's not like high tech, it's not virtual reality, it's just working on a document and making that easier to collaborate. And I'm glad they're addressing stuff like that. So
because that's what people will always do. I mean, not always necessarily, maybe, but for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. So you're in a document and you're making a comment, you mention somebody, and they get notified, and that way people will know to go look at that
and
document.
know exactly where to go and stuff.
And have the conversation about the document. Remember in the old days, document workspace was actually a sub-site template, and that was the idea around a document workspace, is that you had a document and you had a discussion about the document. It was very clunky and kludgy, and not many people really understood what it was or used it, but that's the idea. Having a file, having a conversation about the file. I don't know how many customers over the years that, so I'm losing my voice, have asked for that, and I've had to just try and build something like a separate list or a discussion board and try to like web part connections and all this mess just to create that concept of a discussion about a file. So huge.
Yeah. And even Teams too, being able to like add, I mean that's been around for a while, but adding a file in Teams and having the discussion, just like a chat about it, you know, that's kind of neat. I
don't know if they said that the discussion about it in Teams is connected now with the discussion in the file.
I don't think so. I think it has the mentions though, I know. So like you can do that mentioning from within Teams as well, but I don't think it's connected with the file. If it's I
think it should be one thing. Like, why would you want to have conversations about a file in one place and have it not show in the other place?
Yeah, that's true.
They're getting there probably. Notifications for page likes, which means you actually are going to have a like button on all the pages you create, and people will actually get notified when someone clicks a like. Now, this takes me back to, remember the old tags and notes concept? So back in SharePoint 2010, they announced it was a big new thing they rolled out in SharePoint, was tags and notes, and it existed everywhere, and it was in the ribbon when you were on a page, when you were on a file, and the idea behind that was to be able to have keywords and have conversations, notes about things in SharePoint. But the big problem, no one ever used it, and one of the big reasons no one ever used it is because you didn't ever know when someone made a comment. Like you had no way of being flagged, you have no way of knowing when there was a new conversation going on about something, and it just kind of sat out there, and it was stored in this separate place that was not with a file and not yet. So it was not adopted ever.
No.
Like I never knew a single customer that used that. So
or used it well.
So that's going to be a big thing that we're noticing, and a theme we're noticing in lots of places is you getting notified about stuff that's going on. Let's see. So
here's the list. I have something here that talks about the list stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So there's a screenshot of it somewhere. We'll find it on the post. But
yeah, it might be on like another.
And so I'm going to start talking about the list thing, and maybe you can find it where it has the new options for like importing from Excel and that little screenshot.
Oh, the screenshot? Yeah, let me see if I can find that.
I'm pretty sure I saw it on one of those. If somebody in the chat and Slack, if you know where that is. Anyway.
I'll try to look for it real quick.
When you go to create a new list, it's got a new interface, and guess what's working now? Drum roll. Importing from Excel. Jazz hands. No. So you can actually import from Excel into a SharePoint list now. Like you used to be able to do that, remember? So that sounds kind of weird, but it's functioning now. So basically, the idea is that you have a Excel spreadsheet, and you want that to be a SharePoint list because you want to have the rich interactivity of people being able to go edit all those rows as line items. Or you have items in a spreadsheet that you need to simply paste and update into a SharePoint list, and you just be able to copy and paste from the spreadsheet to the list. I've done this many, like this use case is huge. Like I've needed to do this many, many times over the years. This is a big need. And with the modern browsers and lately, it has just simply not worked. So the import spreadsheet to create a new list has been there, but it's just not functioning. I sat down and tried this in a bunch of different browsers just in the last month or two, and it just simply didn't work at all. And copying and pasting didn't work. So they fixed that. And it was a big announcement. Did you find it?
Yeah, I did. I put it into the Slack channel as well. So we got. You're talking about.
So the create a list interface is different. So what you can do is you can pick from a list type, and these list types are what I was talking about with being able to have those defined for your hub site. Yeah,
actual templates.
Add properties for this list. I guess those are columns.
Yeah, I think
site columns that already exist. That's interesting.
Yeah. And then there's existing Excel, new. Yep.
So the create a list interface is actually modernized now. It's been really old for a pretty long time.
Yeah.
So it's got all your different types of lists you can create, which is huge. You can create a list from an existing list. Whoa. That's like being able to create a view from an existing view and just have it all be the same. Instead of having to go to the list and click save as template and then have it exist
and then add an app,
and then click add an app and then pick that template and then remembering to go back and delete the template.
Delete it if you don't need it,
You just go create a list from an existing list. Oh, like whoa.
That's pretty cool. I actually really like the way the interface looks. I think it'll be, I'm excited to try that out.
It's got the list types and then edit in place.
Edit in place. So that's without doing quick edit. You basically can just click and edit.
And when as soon as you create a new list, you're directly in datasheet view.
Yeah. It's always, it's pretty much like always datasheet view, basically.
Yeah. That's huge.
Yeah, which makes sense.
People want to do that.
Yeah.
So now it's the default. I don't know if everybody's gonna like being the default, but yeah, I'm sure you can.
It'll be interesting, because it looks like it looks a little bit different than, no, I guess I'm looking at the screenshots. If you guys are in Slack, you can click on that article, you'll see the screenshots we're looking at. But it looks like it'll be interesting to see how it functions too.
Yeah, so you're in datasheet view, you have insights now. You see the button at the top of the list.
That's over here.
About your list.
So Power BI integration. So
That's what's Power BI.
It's Power BI, So it'll actually look at your data and actually create.
Automatically just assume what kind of chart that you want to see. Just guess. And I wonder if you have to have Power BI, any kind of licensing, special
Probably.
licensing for that.
I'm assuming. Let's see.
But for site insights, you don't. I mean, it shows you all those charts. So probably if you wanted to create your own custom reports, you'd have to have Power BI licensing. But it's just going to kind of like the site insights and site activity and that kind of stuff. That's just got its own charts that are there.
That could be really powerful though, because if you are like needing, some people will export that data to Excel or they'll put it into Power BI and go through the process of creating those. This one is called Enrich Your SharePoint Content with Intelligence and Automation.
I'm going to pull that screen too.
But I actually think the actual taking the data and creating charts and graphs from the data in the list.
The data in the list,
so we also have, you mentioned it earlier, but we have the creative task, which is the linking to Planner. So that's
I tweeted out this blog post the other day, and I didn't really look professional at the top of the screenshot. I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
Whoops.
Maybe I should go read that. Apparently you can go into Visio and create your flows.
Create a flow.
And it connects to Flow. Now, the biggest use case that I'm going to see for this is when I've had big, long, complex flows. I've had a couple of situations where the browser actually struggles. And then it takes longer and longer to save it, or you can't scroll all the way down. It's just so long. So having it in Visio and be able to work on it in actual software, I think is going to be really powerful to be able to just be in a client software and just knock out the flow and not have to wait for the browser to do stuff,
the loading and
not
everything.
Have to worry about any of that.
And also from a planning perspective, when you are sitting down to plan a flow and you're trying to figure out what's the best, exactly, and actually being able to show them, and then you can save this and send it to them, which I don't know if you can. I'm not sure if you can do that with regular flow in the browser, export a image of it.
Maybe you can get the business users to attempt to build it out and send it to you, and then you can do some corrections.
And make it work correctly.
Like in the past when we had customers that would build a SharePoint workflow
in Visio.
Using Flow. Using Visio. And then mail it to me, and then I wouldn't actually necessarily use the exact actions that they put in there, but at least it was them. And then I could take that and create a workflow from it. So same exact concept,
but with Flow. And then I think the last one on this one was that you can upload files to forms, which I've actually had customers ask for. So that'll be Microsoft Forms file upload.
Oh, Microsoft Forms.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
So that's pretty.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, that is a big one.
Because I think that's one we've had customers not want to use forms for that reason because they couldn't attach files. So
I wish I
pretty
could
cool.
pass parameters to forms.
Yeah.
So Microsoft Forms, we did a couple of different power hours about it. It gives the ability to create anonymous forms that anyone would be able to fill out, and the data just goes into, you'd have to go to Microsoft Forms to go to see the data like in a spreadsheet, but the thing about Forms is it's got a connector, and you can create a flow, and I did that in a power hour.
Yep.
So we created a flow that takes, whenever somebody fills out a form in Microsoft Forms, takes that data, puts it in a SharePoint list, sends an email, and even our form that you fill out when you join Power Hour, when you join our Slack discussions, that is a Microsoft form that I have that goes to a SharePoint list and also goes into Slack, and that's how we know who to add to Slack.
Who to add, yep.
Now they're saying Microsoft Forms has the ability to do attachments, so that means somebody could fill it out, attach something, and then Flow is going to be able to go look at those attachments and put it in the library.
Yeah.
You can go send it in an email. You can put it as an attachment in a list item.
Actually, it sounds like files are stored in the SharePoint library for group connected forms. So it'll automatically even put them in a library. So that's pretty neat. Yeah, that's really cool because there are definitely use cases for forms, right? Where you have these forms that you want to do different things with, and you kind of with a SharePoint list, and it'll
like
kind of be
a customer of ours that needed to have like a drawing. They're planning these events, and they have like this, like with all the booths everywhere, and they need to be able to have like this drawing and have it as a PDF or whatever, and be able to send that and have people collaborate on it or talk about it or do whatever.
Yeah.
And people from outside of the company
Right.
will be able to
that
send
aren't
those.
without having to add them as external users and all that stuff. So really cool.
Yeah.
That's a neat one.
Let's see what else. They announced some stuff around SharePoint admin, like the SharePoint admin center.
That's going to be all new soon.
Yeah, so historically it's been kind of challenging to manage. Like all the Office 365 groups weren't listed there, and so like for example in our team, all of our students for our training, like our ultimate customers, have a student signed, and they all have accounts in our tenant, and they each get their own site collection. Well, I haven't been creating Office 365 groups for these students because I don't have the ability to manage the when I create it doesn't have an option for the quota.
Yeah.
I think there's a way in PowerShell to do it, but the UI for site management doesn't have anything for quotas with O365 groups. So even I think a way to create O365 groups from the SharePoint admin.
Right, or manage them or anything.
So, which is odd, So it's been kind of awkward with groups, but now like groups is the big thing. That's what everything's going to be, and there's even a PowerShell way to take just a regular old classic team site and convert it to become a group. But that was announced a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So now the SharePoint Admin Center is going to have all these rich capabilities. So as I have an admin background, so that's one of the big things that I've been looking forward to is having like a lot of the stuff that you've historically done in just site management, like in site collection admin. Now you'll be able to do from a more central place.
Yeah.
And for all of your site collections, all your O365 groups, and have a little bit more control over things about it, like who the owners are, quotas, and I had a customer email me the other day who is the admin. He is the SharePoint guy. He is in charge of all of SharePoint, and he realized that there are O365 groups out there that he didn't even know about. Yeah. And because someone went out there, clicked create group, made themselves the owner. And since he's not the owner, he doesn't see it. It's just like, what the hell? Wait a minute. Why are people creating SharePoint sites without me even knowing about it? Yeah. So he had me, called me up, and I had to go find it for him and go make him an owner of it, or make him be able to see it. But so that's been awkward. Yeah. So now your admins are going to be able to know about your groups and be able to do more with them, and that makes total sense.
Yeah, pretty cool.
So I'm going to look for, I think that there's a blog post around the SharePoint admin stuff.
On the admin stuff, and put that out there. And also, while you're doing that, so they did announce that their SharePoint 2019 will, I think, ship this.
Have an O365 account that they're authenticating to. Yeah. Then I could use the embed code web part on premises and embed a Power App. Yeah. So technically, you can do it right now.
Yeah.
In the Power App. So I'm not sure. It's probably just going to be something like an official web part.
More streamlined, yeah.
More streamlined.
Yeah.
But if you're on premises, you do have to have an 365 account. So
Yeah.
They didn't really make any big announcements around Power Apps. But
I know it's like
business
Dynamics.
applications,
Yeah. It's like Dynamics and other stuff like that.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. I just wonder
Somebody
if they're
asked me
gonna.
about
If that's why. I'm just wondering if that's why they're not making those announcements, because maybe they're gonna make them there or something.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Not sure.
Yeah. So yeah, that's so loud in the expo hall.
Yeah.
And so pretty much just you got me on the audio and you guys talking.
So we have a question, Stacy.
I feel like all of our beginner content that's kind of fluffy, high level stuff, I'm going to go pretty fast through that. Because
Yeah.
what I think people are looking for at this point is, okay, we know what Power Apps is.
Yeah.
And
We know how to like create one from scratch. You know.
we just want to know the nitty gritty.
Yeah. Like how do I do functions and formulas and make it work?
Yeah, so there were some new OneDrive capabilities. Do we have any other questions?
Nope, that was it. If you guys have any more questions, go ahead and put them, and I'll be looking out for them.
Yeah.
But hopefully that answered your question, Stacy.
Yeah, OneDrive. Now, OneDrive. What is OneDrive? OneDrive is SharePoint document library. It's just I feel like I have to say that every time I talk about OneDrive. Like OneDrive is a SharePoint document library, and OneDrive for Business is files in your document library. So that's really what it is. So it's not really a separate thing. It's just called that. So we have a new scan experience. So on the OneDrive mobile app, and the demo they did for this was pretty cool. So they scanned in a picture that had...
It was a receipt, right?
Oh, so they had one with a receipt. So it's going to OCR your information in the receipt. And they also, it does image recognition. It recognizes the objects in the image in a picture.
Yeah.
So they scanned an image that had, they took a picture of something that had like a truck with their logo on it.
Yeah.
And then another picture of something with like their old logo. And the software was able to actually recognize which picture contained the old logo, which picture contained the new one.
Yeah, that was interesting. That went by very quickly.
Yeah.
That I was like, you know, like how did that happen? What did you do? Like that was so I didn't get to do a deeper dive into that whole thing. But that was really interesting. And then the whole row formatting, you know how like in the rows like they were green and yellow, like the whole row, like there's like row formatting. So I didn't get to deeper dive.
Yeah, and so we've had to do that crazy JSON stuff in the past.
Yeah,
Sure.
but this is like this is new. This is not even that's the column one, but then this is like actual like row formatting or something. They went by very quickly in the keynote, so I wasn't really sure.
We're all tweeting everything.
Yeah, trying to keep up.
So in the past, you had the ability to go on your phone, and for your photos you take with your camera on your phone, you can point that to automatically upload all the photos to your personal OneDrive.
Yeah.
Well, I used to do that, and I actually stopped doing it when they started trimming back on your free
How much space
that you got in your personal OneDrive. I didn't feel like paying extra. And then now they're actually saying that you can do that with OneDrive for Business. So now I can go take, just make all the photos on my camera automatically upload to OneDrive for Business. I'm not sure what the corporate business use case for that is, though. Do companies want all their employees taking all their pictures off their phone and having them go into their like corporate H drive? You know what I mean? Like their corporate drive. So you do have a lot more space in there, like a terabyte.
Yeah. I think it just depends, probably.
Yeah. So, but that's a capability. Apparently people were asking for it.
Yeah.
The whole concept of sharing, so that whenever wherever you are in SharePoint or OneDrive, when you click to share something with someone, historically, over the years, permissions has been the absolutely most confusing thing. As we've been teaching training to SharePoint training over the years, permissions has always been the most confusing thing for people to get their head around. So Microsoft is constantly, it's kind of frustrating that they're constantly changing it.
Yeah.
They're constantly trying to improve and make it so that it's understandable, and it's something that people can like click share and they understand what they're doing when they're sharing someone and who they're sharing with and how that works. So they've actually improved the sharing experience, password protected links. So you can actually like put a link on something, but then if you put a password associated with it, you don't have to worry about people just like forwarding that email around and everybody just having it. And so it gives you a little bit more control over what happens, because you want to be able to externally share.
Yeah.
Like a bank that I have as a customer, they want to be able to externally share like some subpoenas.
Yeah.
With some outside counsel of their company. And they want the outside counsel to be able to just easily click a link and open the subpoena, because lawyers are not technical people. A lot of people, people are on the go. People are, different ranges of technical capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want external people outside your company to go through a lot of complexity just to be able to like sign in or have a Windows Live account and all this complicated stuff just to be able to get this file you're sharing with them. So Microsoft's being very competitive when they're adding this capability to be able to externally share, but make it a little more secure.
Mm-hmm.
So when you share with someone, it gives you, who would you like this link to work for? Which is, it's in English, right? It makes sense, like just explaining to you what you're doing when you're sharing something. Who would you like this link to work for? Anyone, or only people in Contosa, like your own company, or people with existing access. That means people who already have permissions in that SharePoint site or that library. Or you can say specific people, which would be anyone, whether they have permission or not. That's what you and I was sharing something with you the other day, remember? And I was in my OneDrive for just our own tenant, and I clicked to share it, and I tried to type your name and it was like, why won't it let me share this with you? This is so frustrating. Like, why is sharing so complicated? and then I just clicked specific people, and it let me type your email address.
Yeah.
So, I was just like, Microsoft, why do you keep changing permissions?
Yeah.
So then
the sharing thing is
options for whether you want them to be able to edit the file, and when it expires. That's a big deal. That's another thing that's big for security.
Yeah. It's only limited access.
And block download. Look at that.
Oh, I did not see that.
So when you share it with them, you're just giving them.
Oh, that's a big one.
That's
a big one.
From download. That is like along the lines of information rights management.
Yeah, which is like was super expensive and nobody could do.
Information rights management is something that's been around forever, like 10, 15 years. But it was always like a separate service. You had to install. You had to like have a separate server for it.
And basically somebody to manage it, I've heard.
And you had all these settings to where like whether people can read an email after a certain time, or whether people can forward it, or whether people can download files that exist in a library, and all these settings you could do. Well, this is the same like concept of blocking. You share with someone and they block them to be able to download it. That is huge. I like that. And then you have, I'm just like reading this as we go. Device management. So we are not in a company that we have to worry about device management because there are 3 of us. We don't have to necessarily worry about people taking their device and taking company files and losing the phone, losing the laptop, or doing nefarious things with the files. But you have more of an ability to not only control what people are doing with the files and doing with their corporate content, but getting reports on what they're doing with external sharing.
Yeah.
External sharing was cool when they first announced it, and it was like, okay, you can do this thing. But then all of a sudden it was like,
how do you govern it?
What, how do you govern it? And wait a minute, what are people doing? Like we need to turn this off because we don't know what they're doing. Yeah. So now instead of just turning it off and not allowing it,
more control.
Going to use Box or something else. Now you can actually turn it on and not only have more control, but be able to look at the reports and know what people are doing when they're externally sharing. The other day I tweeted about the concept that you can now customize your access requests. Like for a SharePoint site, you can not only can people request access, request permission when they don't have access to it. They get a link to a site they don't have access to, but you can now customize what that email looks like. Now you can customize the sharing emails. So when you go to share something with someone, you're not just going to get this generic email that just everyone gets. Yeah. You can customize that. That's something that you have to do within Azure, apparently. Yeah. But at least it's possible. At least you can put your logo in there. You can customize what the messaging is in there. And then another big thing that people have wanted to do over the years is people worry, like admins worry about this, about people in the company, and again, along those lines of files and people's OneDrives, is what happens when I leave the company, and worrying about losing their files and worrying about them getting automatically deleted or something. So now you can actually transfer ownership when they leave the organization. You can automatically transfer the ownership to the manager, and my sites used to do that. So back in the day when you had my sites on premises, the manager would automatically get an email like when you left the company about your files, and here you go, you have access to this person's files.
Groups, because that's actually like becomes like an AD group, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
So you could probably, I don't know.
This is what we did for a current customer. Is that when we created their sites, we create a SharePoint group, or you could just put it in the members group, or you could take the AD group and put it in the members group. Yeah. That it creates on the site. But yeah, that does get a little confusing with the fact that most 365 group has an email address, but an O365 group is not an Active Directory group permission group. Right. It's not like an NTFS group of people. So you can't go into SharePoint, and if you type like who to give something permission to, if you try to type the name of a O365 group, it doesn't work.
Oh, I thought you could. No, you can't? Okay.
No. So it's just like in the past when you had a distribution list, and like an Exchange distribution list, and you try to type it in SharePoint to give them permission, and it had to be an Active Directory group, email-enabled group, for them to be able to be added to SharePoint. It couldn't just be a distribution list. So.
Yeah, one of the things that you can use to kind of help, speaking of some of the announcements that came out this week, is that whole like site design, site scripting, because that has permissions in it. So now, so when you create those, you can have it like automatically create those groups and put the people in them and that kind of thing, and kind of take care of some of that with a script that you use as a...
Every single time you create an O365 group. That's just not feasible in the real world. Now, for just ad hoc, let's quickly throw this together so we can collaborate on something. I want Bob and Sally and Sam to be on this, in this little team that we're collaborating. That's a scenario where, adding people individually is fine. But
on your intranet.
For your governance, or like the way you're going to do things systematically, putting, having an AD group and putting like if all of marketing or... and putting it in the members group, I think is going to be the best way to do that. Let's see. I'm looking at the blog post now on enrich your SharePoint content with intelligence and automation. And so this is that row formatting thing that you were talking about.
Yes.
Cognitive analysis with flow. So that's the thing where you were talking about the analysis of the data right there in the list.
Yep, with the picture, knowing which picture was old and which picture was new.
Sentiment analysis on tweets. How is that a business?
I think that's just a flow that they create. I think it's a flow that they created that does that.
I see what you're saying. Okay, row formatting. Now this is new, so this is not. So the column formatter is the thing we were talking about with the JSON that we did a power hour on, and you have to write code, and you have to write some sort of syntax.
Simple code, but it's code.
Yeah. I have literally never used that, by the way. We did it in Power Hour. And we did it like on one customer maybe, but it's something people ask for they used to ask for all the time, and now like no one asks for it. So
it's hit and miss.
So that was the column so that's an actual column setting that you do in your column settings. There's that little box where you do column formatting. This is row formatting. So it provides a way to use scripts and define conditional formats to be applied to an entire row. So that means that's going to be not specific to a column.
No.
So the example here is going to be for this one, like the example they have in the screenshot. Oh, okay, that's awesome. So that's not just conditional formatting.
Yeah.
That is
like almost like display templates.
Yeah. No. That's like, okay, so remember the old styles that you had for views?
Yeah.
That's view styles. Oh, like light bulb.
Yeah.
So that's view styles. So that means that, so remember the old view style? They had one called like newsletter.
Box.
It would actually put the title above the description. And you had the box, and you had one that was like details. And pretty much when SharePoint 2013 came out, we told everybody to stop using all the view styles because all the ones except for default, they pretty much didn't work correctly.
They didn't have all the features, like all the like the menu and stuff like that.
So styles kind of went out the window. So now the row formatter looks like that's what that is.
It's
so
kind of like a styles.
Say, I want the title to be here, and the description to be here, and the date to be over here, and the image to be here, and it makes it look like that's like a very pretty list of things that is tightly controlled. This is like a gallery.
Yeah, or like I was thinking like a display template, right? Like when you would do roll-ups for search and you would create like display templates to look all fancy.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like that, but into the list.
And in Power Apps, when you create a gallery, you actually go into like the row of the gallery and you can arrange where all the fields are and whether they're bold and kind of conditional formatting and what shows where, so that everything in that whole gallery looks a certain way. That looks like what that is. ASON for this? Did they say?
I think so.
I don't know if they said how to do that.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool looking. I like that. Image analysis is a thing that I mentioned where
OCR.
It has object recognition, like receipts, people, whiteboards, business cards. And so, they announced a new type of column, location.
Yes.
They announced a new location type of column back in SharePoint 2013.
Yeah.
And it was this weird thing that you had to do with. There was something you had to do custom code, basically to let it work. And so we never used it because it was something like extremely custom. You had to do just to make it functional.
To get it to give you what you needed.
Yeah, so it was kind of like half-assed. It was not really a real thing that most people ever use. So now there's going to be a new location column that you can use for like a list of customers, a list of vendors, a list of contact people. So you're going to be able to use the location column to have that data or like show their locations. Custom image models. Whoa, that is like high tech. That's kind of custom images to sort through like logos. So that's what we were just talking about with cognitive services. That is that's really so it's customvision.ai. Where you can go read more about that, and that's cloud cognitive services. I don't know if that's probably an extra cost. Yeah. Last time I looked into cognitive services, I was just kind of playing around with stuff. Yeah. It would be like an extra charge on your O365 or Azure account. Yeah, and be careful with Azure, as Laura learned. When you're playing around with Azure. I was playing around with Azure, creating databases, creating Azure functions. If you're following instructions to do something in Azure, and you haven't done that before, and maybe check with somebody. Yeah, and then I did a bunch of stuff and then just forgot about it and just like went back to it later. Or I got a bill. Yeah. And I got a bill for $1,400. And I was like, what? And I went into Azure and just delete. And I just started deleting everything. Be careful in there. Yeah. Unless you know what you're doing. Yeah, and then it was like I spent that $1,400 out the window. So be careful in Azure. Okay, so then let's look at this stuff. Edit in place. We can already do that. They're making it easier to link list items to other O365 apps such as Planner, Outlook, Location, Outlook calendars, locations, and more, even Teams. So you're going to be able to do stuff with SharePoint lists in Teams. Jason Himmelstein wrote a blog post. Yeah, like a workaround. So, it was kind of a little hack to be able to do it, but it's going to be a more it's going to actually be in there to be able to do it. And again, that goes along the same thing that we were talking about at the very beginning, which is this concept of being able to have Teams be the central place that you work and not have to go like do all your documents in Teams and do your list somewhere else, in the browser. So they're bringing everything that you want to do into Teams and do it there. Because like your SharePoint admin may want to actually be in SharePoint and managing the libraries and managing the lists and doing that, but then your regular end users may not want to go Word or in Outlook or in Teams or SharePoint, wherever you are, just having it being intuitive and makes sense. And so Microsoft's really been doing a lot of that. So it makes training a lot less necessary, which is good. Oh, and speaking of training, I think they're going to be adding some training web parts into. We did mention that briefly at the end. Oh, really? That they would have training content that you can actually like surface right within there. So, that's huge. Well, I love the fact that it's enabling end users to be able to just quickly be able to understand what they're doing. And I'm all about that. So absolutely. Just in general, about any of the stuff we talked about the conference experience, anything like that. Oh yeah, we had the B-52s played last night. retweeted. A lot of people tweeted about that, so you could just go to the hashtag
Yeah.
SPC18.
We weren't supposed. Apparently, we weren't supposed to take pictures and video, but I may have done that.
Told people to not take pictures of them.
Yeah, they did,
And then at
but
the end,
nobody listened.
yeah, it was like, well,
It wasn't as bad. Like when Fallout Boy performed at the Ignite, was it Ignite in Chicago? And it was like a sea of cameras, like
Just
nobody
everybody
moving.
was just standing
Yeah,
there
just
like
not
this.
moving, just like so. It was definitely better than that. I felt like it was more of a concert
There was
feeling.
more people following the rules.
Yeah, than
No,
not.
I did quickly just like do. Like,
I did like a quick
like
like,
a 10-second
yeah.
video, and so
It's probably still
at the
sorry,
end-
sorry
at the
B-52s.
end
Don't
they
sue me.
Actually said something to the people
In the
They
front.
were like, here you go. They gave him something like, I don't know, it was a T-shirt. Or something.
Yeah.
They're like, here you go. This is your prize for not using your camera. We appreciate that. And they handed them something.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Yeah. So again, a SharePoint Power Hour. We do this Wednesdays at 11 Central. I'm not sure what our topic's going to be next week, but
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
yeah, you can go to wonderlord.com. You can go to iWmentor.com. Check out our training. We have a big Power Apps training class, 4 days, coming up in the week of June 18th. So check that out.
And check out your workshop tomorrow. If you are actually at the conference, then come check out. And you're doing a post
Yeah, if you're still
workshop.
around tomorrow.
Yeah, post conference workshop. Then
Yeah.
come check out Laura's tomorrow. We'll both be there.
Yeah. All right.
It's kind of like a simplified version of the 4-day class, so you'll get a preview of what that's like.
Yeah. Crammed into like 6-7.
Yeah, a couple hours.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching.
Thanks, guys.
And we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye. So more about that delay.